All right, so it is 2 minutes after. I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Welcome, everyone. This is the fourth of 5 webinars in our continuing April series, sort of in response to the COVID-19 crisis. Today, we're focusing specifically on marketing your mission and core values, and you'll find out as we go, we've sort of snuck vision in there as well. So more to come on that. In the meantime, we do want to welcome you. We know that there are lots of things to be doing this time of day and year and month. It seems like those competing priorities keep being piled on as we go. It seems like maybe a month ago we were kind of at a halt, a screeching halt. I think now as we all collectively prepare for quote unquote reopening our businesses, our state, there are lots of things to be mindful of and certainly a lot of competing priorities. So we are happy that you made the choice to be with us today, and we look forward to sharing with you some of what we know, but also we know that you know stuff as well, and you have knowledge, expertise, skills, resources, links, etc. And so if you have something specifically that you want us to answer or reflect on, please share that with us directly using the Q&A feature. Those questions come directly to the presenters and certainly to Lindsay as the chat moderator. You can respond to you right in that Q&A feature, and that helps jump some of your questions to the top of the list. Sometimes the chat box is fast and furious, and it becomes a little more difficult to pull out those specific questions you have for us. As I mentioned, the chat feature is also available, and the only sort of caveat here is that we do invite you to toggle the sort of to feature to all attendees and panelists so everyone can see not only your introductions, but perhaps also your ideas and resources as we navigate the webinar today. So those are 2 great features to stay engaged throughout the next hour or so. In the meantime, we will move on to introductions. So for those of you that have not yet had the opportunity to meet, my name is Aaron Wallwick. I'm the CEO of EventGuard. And the long and short of it is that we're a professional development consulting firm that works with state, regional, national, and international organizations in improving your learning and networking experiences for your members, clients, customers, and staff. And we are happy, pleased, proud to partner with the Image Shop on this series of programs. With that, I will turn the floor over now to Rob for his introduction.
Sure, thanks, Aaron, and hello, everybody. My name is Rob McCarty. I'm the CEO and managing partner of the Image Shop. It's been a real pleasure to work with Aaron and the team on putting this series together. And again, manage Image Shop. We're a brand marketing firm here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Clients across the state and the country, and really excited to be able to jump into these topics with everybody. And feel free to ask us your questions as we go, and we'll try to answer them.
Awesome, thanks so much. So a new face to our webinar series today is Karen Tracy. Welcome, Karen, to our conversation.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here with you guys today. I am president and creative director at the Image Shop. I work with Rob and our team of creatives, and I'm excited to join you guys today. So thanks for having me.
Thanks so much. And last but not least, Lindsay Gross is also joining us today as our chat moderator. So Lindsay, I'll kick it over to you for an introduction.
Sure. Hi, I'm Lindsay Gross. As Aaron mentioned, I'm the Director of Facilitation Services with EventGuard, and I will be serving as your chat moderator today. Aaron mentioned just a few minutes ago that we obviously are bringing some content and some knowledge and experience to you today, but we know that you all have your own unique experience and wisdom that you bring to us. And this is important for us to continue to engage with you in that way and to pull out that wisdom and experience that you have as well. And so that's going to be my role, is to really kind of engage, lift up any questions, and be there to help us be together even though we're apart. So thank you for having me, and I'm excited to hear what we're going to talk about today.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Lindsay. All right, so now it's your turn, and we'd love for you to do your introductions. If you've been on our series, you know that this is kind of a mainstay. We ask you to share with us your name and your role. Your role can either be your formal role, what is your title within your organization, or it could be your informal role. Today, I'm playing sort of the resident DJ, kind of keeping the ship or the train on the tracks, I suppose, keeping everything moving forward. I also feel like I have like the bright lights, I have the multiple monitors, I have the speaker, right? the microphone, I have the green screen, I have it all working. So I'm trying to keep everyone on the track and moving it forward. I also know that some of you have some creative sort of informal roles that you've been toying with since you've been at home. I know some of you are sort of creative gardeners doing lots of yard work. I've been learning folk calligraphy. And so, I don't know, lots of informal roles. We'd love for you to be as creative as you can in your introductions. Of course, next we're looking for your organization. To the extent possible, we just ask you to limit those acronyms so that we all collectively know what they are. We may not know what the letters mean, but we certainly have a better chance of knowing from where you come when you share the words. And lastly, if you have a question that you hope to have answered today, we would love to get that from you. Either a question or perhaps even the reason why you decided to show up today. You know, when you hear sort of a title around marketing your mission, vision, and values, my strong suspicion is that you have a reason why you wanted to hear what we have to say on that topic. And so perhaps you have a question, or perhaps you have maybe a reason why you attended. We'd love to see that as well. You know, in terms of my question, I think that in preparing for today, one of the things that I probably intuitively knew, but wasn't, I guess maybe it wasn't as explicit as possible, is kind of who are we talking about in terms of our prospective audiences when it comes to marketing our mission, vision, and values. I think that a little bit later today we'll be specifically pointing out at least two. I think that there's a strong internal and a strong external audience, but even then you can kind of subdivide further. And so I guess my question or my aha moment was really this curiosity around audiences and kind of who are we talking about when we talk about really marketing and branding our mission, vision, and values. So with that, Lindsay, I'll turn it over to you. Perhaps you can share with us your informal role, but also maybe the question or the topic that you want to learn more about today.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been doing a lot of these webinars, and we've been kind of playing around with like, what's our formal role? We're pretty clear on that, but like, what's our informal role that we play? And I think I've hit it. I think, are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
My informal role is that I am a sustenance supplier.
Oh, okay. Well, there you
both
go.
Physical sustenance and emotional sustenance. So I'm like the snack giver for my whole family, as well as like coworkers. Erin knows I always travel with like no less than 4,000 calories in snacks. And like even if it's like a half-hour trip to the store, I have to have a snack. And I am here for the feelings. So I'm that emotional sustenance supplier too. So that's my informal role, I would say, within our organization, and kind of informally in my personal relationships as well. So question I have at the end of this discussion, I think that, we went through an exercise to develop and kind of hone in on our core values as Avant-Garde. And I think that we may not put them forward as much as I would love to in terms of like our proposal and what we lead with. I'd love to see us lead more with our core values, because they really do inform and function everything we do with our clients, everything we do with ourselves as a team. We live them every day, but I'd love to see us, kind of put, that foot forward more. So I'd be curious about tips or tricks to do that. So we have some folks that are sharing in the chat box, if it would be okay if I share that too. We have Lynn with us, who's executive director of our community's children. Maggie is with us, chief cook and bottle washer. Are we talking, I'm curious if we're talking baby bottles, Maggie, because if we are, you might have to like post a picture in the chat box so we can see the adorable little one. Master herbalist, doctorate level of natural health education. Love to cook from scratch. Feeling guilty for enjoying having more time at home. Never feel guilty for that, Maggie. Natalie is with us, and she's sharing her informal role as a brand new dog mom. I might need to see a picture of that as well. So yes, please continue as you're kind of joining us today to pop in those informal or formal roles and any questions that you have that you want us to answer throughout our time together today.
Awesome. So we, as I mentioned, this is a continuing series. So Rob's just going to chat a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So again, we've been doing this weekly series. We actually have one episode planned left after this. So stay tuned. We'll give you more information at the end about that. And we'd love to see you again next week. As I mentioned before, this is an interactive session. So we really, questions you have, we want to hear them and we want to try to answer them. So be sure as we go, you stop us and ask us what's going on. And as this series, the last event, we'll continue to bring on other people with us. So we like to have a robust conversation and topic experts when we do this. So really excited to be sharing this with everybody.
Awesome. I will on the next slide here in just a moment kind of remind folks that there are resources for the past webinars as well. So if you missed any of the initial 3 episodes, it's not too late. You can both view the recordings, but also read Natalie's great recaps of those takeaways. So whether you are wanting to go back and view them or read that content, or whether you want to share those with others, certainly both of those are possibilities. So about today's program today, our focus today is on marketing, branding, and the importance of certainly your mission, vision, and values. This really, Rob, I think fits in well to some of the previous conversations we've already been having around what to put on social media and some of the do's and don'ts and blah blah. So I think this is just a good sort of puzzle piece into some of the things that we've already brought you, and I hope you'll find that synergy today as we talk about these items. We are recording today. That recording is scheduled to go until 2 p.m. Eastern time. So as I've already mentioned, you'll have the opportunity to come back to this if you would like to do so in the future. Please actively engage in the chat function. So Lindsay will be there and she will be kind of looking, responding, and bringing forward some of your great ideas, knowledge, expertise, but also your questions. I know that throughout the webinar today, both Rob and Karen will likely be kind of perusing the chat function as well. And so if you have any specific items for them, they'd be happy to respond to you. You are welcome to take screenshots, but do know that we will share with you the handouts afterwards. So if you want it in real time right away, you can take screenshots old school with your mobile device. And if you know how to do it fancy all like on your web screen or on your screen or on your iPad or from wherever you join us today, you're welcome to do that as well. Just know that we do come in the spirit of sharing, and we want you to have the resources you need to be successful once you leave here today. So as I mentioned, the recording, chat transcript, PowerPoint links, all of those things will be shared afterwards on follow-up blog posts that Natalie coordinates for us. And you'll find those blog posts both at eventguard.com and theimageshop.com. And of course, you can view all of the past resources there as well. Finally, we will, at the end of our time together today, kind of tease the last in the series of webinars. So at eventguard.com/events, you can either navigate there now and sign up for next week's program or get a preview if you'd like. So just to know that that's available to you, and that's where you can find future information. All right, so with that, we do have a robust agenda for the day today. And so Rob is going to just introduce at a high level what you can anticipate.
Yep, so today we're going to be going at a very high level over the mission, vision, values, or the acronym MVV. And how they play inside of marketing and branding, how both the Vanguard and the Image Shop currently use our mission, vision, values to promote ourselves and to behave really in general. 5-step consideration plan for marketing your own. And then we'll go with a debrief. We'll answer any questions we don't get along the way, and then we'll wrap up.
And I would just say, like, the one sort of asterisk that I'm going to make right now is that I think I'm actually excited to present what the Image Shop and what EventGuard are doing in terms of our own mission, vision, and values. What I would say is that we are just 2 examples, and in some places we're getting it right, and some places there are certainly opportunities for improvement. I think that what we didn't want to do is necessarily point at other companies or other brands that are either doing it well or not. We wanted to sort of stick close to home here and present to you what we know. But as Lindsay mentioned, there are always places to improve. We know that for ourselves and certainly for you all as well. And so 2 examples, in some places really great, in some places maybe not, but we just hope that you'll leave with some key nuggets that maybe you can think about as you move forward and as you consider maybe ways to change or improve in your own practice. All right, so with that, we are going to explore mission, vision, and values. And as I think Karen already mentioned, and Rob likely too, this isn't a course on what are mission, vision, values, and the pros and cons of each. Literally, every business textbook will probably present them in a slightly different way, right? And so, certainly keep your ideas, questions coming, but this is just to sort of ground us, I think, in our conversation for today. So with that, Karen, we'd love for you to take it away.
All right. Well, as we know, everybody, may or may not have mission, vision, and values. And as Aaron says, they can be all over the board. They can look very, very different from one organization to the next. But most of us either have this or have an idea of something that may not sound like a mission, vision, or values, but maybe it's your core guideposts or whatever you may call them. So they vary, but they do have some things in common. And one thing that I think that may be overlooked oftentimes is mission, vision, values are really the foundational building blocks of a brand. I don't think people often think about that, but you really can't build a brand without a solid set of values and a solid mission and vision about where you're going and how you're going to get there. So those are super key to building a good brand. Really, when I look at helping companies kind of define these things, I like to start basically bottom up. So if you look at core values, that's really where you would begin with this whole process, really stating and being able to articulate what is it that really makes your company, makes you tick as an organization. What do you value? What being able to define those things really sets the road up for your mission and your vision. So for us, for the Image Shop, we spent some time, and Rob can probably talk to this just as well as I can, spent quite a bit of time really crafting those, like what are those values? We know what they are internally, but crafting them and putting them to paper, we spent some serious time with that and really look to our team too to influence that and to share where they're at. Did you want to mention anything about that, Rob?
I think one thing to consider, and if you kind of go along with what Karen's talking about, and you think about core values is kind of a beginning place, that's like a guidepost for everything you do. So for an organization like ours, we're a B corporation. And within that B corporation, we carry certain values that are business forward. And when I say that, I mean we focus very intentionally on how we treat the environment, how we treat our team and our community, and how we produce revenue, and try to do those in really a balanced way instead of looking at the business from maybe one or two lenses. We look at it from three. So our values tend to be grounded into things that are more, I guess, holistic. If you were a business or business sense to think about that, we're looking at a holistic perspective of our values. But then those things then inform up the ladder for us, the rest of what we want to be. And I think for most everybody, I always try to tell people when we start off in a process to kind of get yourself grounded in mission and vision. The vision in what we got here, declaration of organization's long-term objectives intended to guide its internal decision-making. So your vision is really that point out into the future of where you want to get to, what you want to be like. What does your organization look like in 5 years? So you're looking ahead. And I used to describe it as a kind of like the destination. If you're going on a trip and you look at vision, that's your destination. Where do you want to get to? And your mission statement of why organization exists, what's overall goal, and identifying the goal of its operations. Those are the ways that you get there. So like a trip for me, the way that I like to describe it is all the things I need to help get to the place I want to get to in the future. My mission is those things. How am I going to, in the end, live out and become the organization and the vision of the organization? And so vision is really fluid. We are in a time where I think a lot of people are probably starting to think about, wow, that place I thought I was going to be in 5 years, how is this situation influencing and changing that? How are we able to deal with that and then articulate maybe a new vision for ourselves, knowing that things are likely going to change in the business world, and then starting to reprocess all of that. And I know, Aaron, you've got thoughts on this too. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a couple of things. I think that right now, regardless of what you have, whatever your sort of grounding principles are, it's just important to sort of pull those out. So if they're not a part of your everyday life, or up until sort of the pandemic, they haven't been part of everyday life, it's time to pull them out and to remember that they exist. So whatever you have, to go back to that, and to really establish them as again a reminder of your purpose and why you are a business or an organization. I'm not going to suggest that during this pandemic it's necessarily the time to sort of overhaul from scratch. That likely isn't probably how you want to approach a move forward. But I do think it is important to identify maybe what is current and maybe what's outdated, or what maybe needs to be set aside for the moment and come back to. I just think that it's difficult often for organizations under extreme times of crisis to mindfully develop a mission, vision, and values from scratch. And so I would just say, dust off what you have, really identify maybe what's serving you well and what's not, and potentially, identify an opportunity or a roadmap for when you might want to revise those things. I think we introduced them today as just a reminder that these are sort of the grounding principles that should be guiding everything that you do right now, including your marketing and branding efforts. And so moving forward, we're going to sort of call out maybe some of the ways in which we've used our mission, vision, and values to market and to build our brand, or to at least maintain our brand during this time.
Right on.
So I'm gonna move on to kind of how are we doing these things? How are we using kind of our mission, vision, and values as guideposts to our marketing branding? In some of our previous episodes, we've had this conversation around, what should we post during this time? What should we say? What images should we use or not use? We've talked about the do's and the don'ts, and now we're kind of reminding ourselves that, we can make choices. As long as we're making choices in alignment with our mission, vision, and values, we're likely doing something right. So I'll turn the floor over back to the Image Shop team to talk a little bit about ways in which their sort of mission, vision, values are being amplified during this time.
Yeah, so you'll see there are 4 things listed, and really the first 2 I think are super key right now with the state that we're in. We've always been, and really a big part of the founding part of our mission and vision and who we are and our core values is that we've termed ourselves a brand marketing ally, and that term ally means a lot to us, especially in a time like this. And we're really looking at how do we extend that relationship to really, at this point in time, help our clients and help organizations that we really care about. And we've always been there as an ally and as an assistant for our clients. But right now we're doing something a little bit special, a little bit different with this 8-week time period that I'm going to let Rob take the floor here and talk more about this. But we, if you guys aren't familiar with the PPP, it's the loan that we receive from the federal government to keep our employees paid and keep our rent paid and all of that for a 2-month period of time. And that is forgiven for 2 months. So we decided to take that opportunity to do something a little bit creative. And I'll let Rob talk about that because this was his idea and I don't want to steal his thunder.
Not much thunder to be had, but the truth is, again, when you look back at our underpinnings and what we're all about and what works well for us, is really operating at a high level with our clients and partners and making sure that we're providing the best that we can. So when we, entered this time period, I think everybody here could probably agree you went through the stages of grief for your business, for other things. And then I had that initial, what am I going to do? And then it became that, okay, this is what we're going to do. And so as things started to unfold and we started to learn more about timing and thinking about who we were, we realized that the PPP was a good route for us to go in many ways because, one, we are dedicated to our team. And we always have been. So to think that we would have to reduce staff or reduce labor in a time where we were very uncertain about how much there would be to do based on the crisis and the shutdowns, we looked at it and said, you know what, there are so many people that we can help in this timeline, and we should keep our staff on, and we should be helping people out. So we've spent some time over the past 2 weeks and looked to partners of ours and also some clients of ours who are in deep, deep struggles right now and that we're aware of. And we've been reaching out and providing some support for them while this is going on. And we felt like that was a great way to serve ourselves. Now, I will say our decision was not to push this as a big public narrative or to push this out in front of everybody. In part because we're not out seeking credit for these things. And so I'm merely sharing this with you guys as an example of what we're doing. We know that the work we're doing and the positive work that we're doing within our network will carry its way out to people, and the people that we're helping will tell people, and we feel like that's enough. We're not looking to be heroes here. We're looking to help people get along. So I think that, using opportunities and creative ways to feed not only what that is, but our team. And I think that's a core audience here. I know Natalie's on here, but a lot of this, when you're working through these things, these are for your team, supporting your mission, your vision, and your values, and supporting them through that. It's a key audience to receive these messages. It backs up transparency. It backs up who you really believe you are as an organization, and it helps that narrative be real and honest. So I feel really strongly about that, and I'm going to pass this back to Karen and Aaron. But the other thing I'll say when we talk about the employee side, we spent a lot of time talking about how we were going to discuss all of these changes that could happen with our team, and when we were at in a real timeline with this. And we decided that based on who we have been forever, we were just going to keep them up to date the whole time, not hiding things or trying to keep things quiet, but in a real open and honest fashion so that we could place together. And I feel really positive about that. And I also think in clients of ours where we support, the narrative and the optics of those narratives, we've been encouraging the same behavior, and we have seen very positive results for our clients who have stayed transparent and honest, not only with their teams, but also with their customers. So, that's my piece here for sure.
Yeah, just to expand on that a little bit, just the transparency with the employees, that can get a little awkward at times, a little messy even at some points in time during this process. We didn't really know what the future held, and just being honest with them about that. Just hey, you guys, we are working on a plan, but we don't know specifically what that is right now. So I think that vulnerability is a way to, I think, foster loyalty among the team. So that's letting them know you don't have it all figured out, and it's okay. So I think that's really important. It's been important for us.
Yeah, something else too, and Aaron, I'd be interested, beyond that, and talking about transparency and how that's worked out for you guys, because I know you guys have been that way the whole time since you started this organization. But I know one thing that we were really key about with our team and that we've been along with our clients is that our ownership team was going to take hits along with everybody else. We weren't going to prop ourselves up and take advantage of things. And if our clients were hurt, we weren't going to do things to, we're going to try to support them, not be like, oh, you're in a bad place, but you still owe us money. We don't like you. We've never been wired that way. So we've also maintained this solidarity, not only with our team, but with our clients. And we are truly, I know some people don't like to hear it. Maggie, I think I'm still remembering a comment from you, like we're in this. We really are in this with everybody. And that's how our organization is built. And that's who we aspire to be. And that's a lot of what we're talking about today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, I'll talk about this in a few minutes. When I was thinking about this content around branding, marketing, your mission, vision, and values, I almost, to some extent, thought that you have to figure out how you're living and breathing them yourself. Like, it's almost like, I have to take care of the family first, and then I can take care of sort of the customers or the external constituencies. It's almost like if you don't have a strong, if you're not living your mission, vision, and values internally, they almost can't sort of, they can't be shown outwardly, right? It's like they have the inward expression and the outward expression don't align. And I think that that's when you figure out that brands or organizations are sort of are trying perhaps to pull the wool over your eyes. And so, yeah, absolutely. To the same extent, we have been working with our team to say, day to day or week to week or month to month, this is what we know. These are the things that could happen. This is sort of the path that we're currently on. And we have been, much like you, trying to be as transparent as possible to keep people up to date. I think that one of the things that we've noticed experience is that people are having emotional and physical reactions unique to themselves. And so it is somewhat difficult to maintain support for everyone in the way that they need it. But we have been doing that as well, and talk about that here in a minute. But I do want to share, as we spend a little bit of time sort of transitioning from the image shop to AventGuard, I do want to just share with folks here briefly our website. And the only reason why I want to do that is I want to just call up a couple of things here that I think are worth looking at or are worth mentioning. I don't know that we have necessarily a mission, vision, and values in the traditional sense. We have a different outward expression of that that we sort of call who we are and what we stand for. But I think more importantly than any of those things are our core values. I know that Karen sort of mentioned them as maybe the foundation, or at least a good place to start. Lindsay has also mentioned them on this conversation as well. These are our sort of 7 core values, and we think that everything we do, both internally and externally, sort of comes back to them. It starts sort of with this like larger sentence, if you will. This first one says, we keep it real and respectful, and then you'll see sort of a smaller description underneath them. And for us, we've been sort of keeping these core values top of mind. I want to share with you now, knowing that we sort of have them, and they were created not from any one person, but actually from a team of people. So all of our team members, anyone who works and serves the AventGuard audience, came together to sort of participate in a brainstorming conversation about what these could be. And then we had a consensus activity where we actually finalized them all. And really, this is sort of our heartbeat. And I here in just a few moments, we'll talk a little bit more about how they materialize both internally as well as externally. Lindsay, I would love for you to sort of weigh in with your thoughts here as I get the slide deck back.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you might have even heard, I don't know if folks were kind of paying attention to one of those core values is we make it, we may be apart, but we make it work together. And I even mentioned that, as we started this webinar this afternoon or this morning, depending on what time zone you're joining us from. But I think that that's, for me, the value that really is standing out right now in our current environment is how can we support one another? How can we make it work together? And I think we have been really leading with that right now in terms of trying to be connecting and engaging with our clients and our partners in any way that we can, even if we can't physically be together. So that's the value that's really been kind of shining through for me right now in all of our work. So it's cool to see those up in front, and yeah, obviously something that's really in the forefront right now.
Well, I'll also invite you to stay on too, Lindsay, because I'm about to sort of talk a little bit internally about how these have shaped up for us internally. As I sort of switch up the slide a little bit to say, how are we living and marketing our mission, vision, and values? Because I think you have to live them before you can market or promote or brand around them. And so internally, these are just a few of the things that I think we probably would do anyway, but have been particularly intentional during this time. So we have, our team all works remotely all of the time. And so we host quarterly retreats where everyone sort of comes together via Zoom. And in those conversations, in this last one that happened during the pandemic, and we were just very open and honest about what business is secured, what potentially is going to get pushed, what targets might need to be readjusted because, we don't know what's going to happen. I think that was both an opportunity to sort of emotionally connect to everyone, but also a time to just be super transparent about what people can expect. And I think that it is possible to host these important conversations with your full team during this time. We also believe firmly in sort of the fun aspect. So you'll see that one of our core values is to have fun until it's done. And so tonight, in fact, we're hosting a Netflix party so that we can watch a movie together, kind of chat, have happy hour, but just do it in sort of a chill way that we sort of play hard, but we work hard. And so this is sort of the yin to that yang, if you will. We use Slack as our internal sort of communication tool. And during this time, every single weekday that we're sort of open for business, we have a team building exercise. And so we post every day, either a question, a prompt, take a picture and show us, let us know what you think. It's just an opportunity that's above and beyond what we normally were doing to sort of create team building opportunities and to create bonds among team members during this time. And I will sort of pop over to you, Lindsay, for your reflections on any of these, but I know that in particular, we've been seeing a lot more traction and collaboration, if you will, among team members as well. You've seen this sort of team that was connected, sort of like sync up, even like the bonds have grown deeper, especially during this time. I would love for Lindsay to perhaps comment on that here.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, we've talked about this on a lot of the webinars as well, that we're sharing with you our experiences. We're not telling you things that we just think are good ideas. Like, we really are sharing with you the things that we've put into practice every day. And we have been for years. I've been with Event Garden and working from home for 3 years. And all of these things that we do are not something we created as a response to COVID. They were things that we were always doing for one another. And so the really cool thing that we've been able to do is fall back and strengthen on things that we've already been doing in order to strengthen our need for connection that I think we're all craving so much right now. So I think it would be really interesting to see how everyone can kind of take a look at their values, look at their mission, vision, and values, and figure out how you can use that to strengthen and fall back on and use that as a foundation to grow during this challenging time. I think we've done a really good mix of making it fun, but also supportive and real, that, we really are real and respectful. When we popped on this, on this webinar to get started, Aaron said, "How are you doing, Lindsay?" And what did I say?
Right.
I'm here. Right. I think we really do live these values every day, and all of these examples that you have posted here, that it was a really good foundation for us to strengthen during this challenging time. So I'd love to hear how folks are kind of seeing that as an opportunity to challenge and strengthen.
So just a few more that I just want to just mention briefly. I think the one-on-one check-ins that we have always done have just become more important during this time. We've been sending, and they've been more. So people have been sending one another sort of check-in texts. I've been checking in on people. How are you doing? And don't give me sort of the line, but tell me how you are actually doing. Lindsay, a little known fact, is a licensed social worker. And so we do take advantage and tap into her sort of emotional plug-in, right? You sort of have this like emotional feeling sort of plug-in, and I think we've lifted that up more so now than ever before. I think we've been really intentional about celebrating successes, like when things are going well, even if they're small wins. We've been sharing those. We have actually an integration in Slack where people can give kudos to one another. We've just been really intentional about lifting up even the smallest of successes right now. And then just ongoing feedback. Like, I think now is not the time to say our team can't handle either good or constructive feedback. We have a culture of feedback. We give feedback after every webinar, after every client engagement, after every phone call. Like, feedback is continuing even during this time. And I just feel like it's important. Like, it's important for people to feel human and respected, and that they're doing good work, as well as to give them opportunities for improvement. So that has continued during this time. Lindsay, I just want to check in with you first. Anything else that you want to sort of lift up or sort of amplify about our internal characteristics, or anything else that maybe I missed? And then I'll come to Rob and Karen just to see if they have any comments or questions about those things as well.
I think that maybe two things I would lift up are this celebrate successes piece and this kind of one-on-one check-ins, or I would even call it maybe to some degree coaching, right? Like we're all being kind of pushed or asked to do things in a different way, or asked to manage our discomfort in ways that we may not be typically used to, right? And so how can we use our values in order to be supportive of one another? And these one-on-one checking or the support that looks a little different than it would on a day-to-day basis in a traditional work environment. So I think I would kind of challenge folks to see where that is in their mission, vision, and values, and how they can kind of lift that up with one another.
Awesome. Rob, Karen, any other questions or anything else that you want to lift up before we move on?
I would like to just lift you guys up, Aaron. What you guys are talking about is really one thing that we really seek in the brands that we work with are what we call authentic brands. And this is all really showing who you are, and it's authentic to who you are, and those values, you know, are the foundation of that. And this is really awesome stuff, and I think it's great, and it's good to hear what you're doing. I appreciate it.
Thanks. So I will say that we feel strongly that we have to have sort of our cards in alignment internally before we can present an external brand. And so I wanted to share that with you separately. And now what I want to move on to is sort of the external manifestation of what that looks like. So I already shared with you our about page. I think that is sort of like our boilerplate language of who we are and who we present ourselves as and what our core values are. And likely you all probably have something that looks like that. But I think during this time, we have additional sort of external considerations. I just wanted to share those with you as well. We do see ourselves as experts in the meeting and event industry. And we know that people have lots of questions during this time. And so we've put our sort of experts out there, each with knowledge and expertise in a very specific area of meetings and events. Maybe that's sponsorships or exhibits or learning or networking or whatever it is. We've put folks out there as experts. We've just invited them to ask us questions, sort of, you know, free of charge. We just want to give back. We want to send you on the right way, and we want to connect you to the right resources. And so we have sort of used our knowledge and expertise in that way to allow people to just ask us what's on their mind without having to create a formal engagement. We've been creating lots of content, as I know the Image Shop has, as well as many of you are likely as well. We've been content creators during this time. That includes our blog posts that have continued and have sort of morphed a little bit during this time about creativity around innovation, around how to sort of engage audiences correctly during this time. We've also created resources like checklists and go-to lists and ideas around how people can employ some of these within their own organization. And obviously this webinar series comes out of that as well. I think in a normal everyday life, I think both the Image Shop and EventGuard are busy, and creating content maybe in this way isn't top of mind. But you know, as there is opportunity to sort of both co-create but also to fill time that's otherwise not being used right now, we thought this webinar series would be a great opportunity to not necessarily promote ourselves, but to share knowledge and information that we've been gathering, and also to bring you and connect you to experts in the industry as well that might have good ideas and resources to share with you as well. And we've been creating weekly newsletters, sort of weekly touch points to check in with people. Again, not from a sort of overly promotional standpoint, but to just connect people with resources that we are making available. I think that everyone knows probably now that anyone who's ever collected your email address over the history of you having email has found you again. And that's certainly not been our intention here. We know that people are being inundated with information that sometimes it can be easy to overlook resources that are valuable and that you might want. And so we've tried to create sort of a weekly roundup, if you will, of what those upcoming resources are for the next week. We think that we've been, you know, in our heart and soul of our work has been creativity, that if you want to plan a meeting or event, anyone can do that. They're kind of called a party planner. And we're not interested in that. We're really interested in creative, innovative, unique learning and networking experiences for our clients, our customers, and those that they engage with, their meeting attendees. But I think we continue to sort of push our creative boundaries in using technology platforms, and helping people think about happy hours, for example. I know that one of the things that we've been seeing is sort of virtual happy hours have sprung up everywhere, but sort of the run-of-the-mill happy hour has been a Zoom call and a drink and people just talking. And what we want to do and what we're experts in is something more elevated than that. And so we've been testing technology with our customers, and we've been experimenting as well. And I think that creativity has just continued to expand during this time of the pandemic when we have real restrictions upon us. And then lastly, so sort of one last outward expression I think of our brand is really this behind the scenes content. We've been not just sharing with our audiences all of the same usual stuff, but we've really been taking behind the scenes shots about what it looks like in our homes, what it looks like to produce a webinar. And I think that's been really well received, and it's just another outward expression of our brand and really our core values. So again, I'll just take maybe a micro break, whether Lindsay has more to share or add in terms of our external expression, or Rob or Karen, if you have any other questions or anything else that you want to sort of highlight during this time, I'd be happy to do that. And then I know we're going to move on to sort of our summary of the 5 steps we think those of you watching here today might want to take in terms of thinking about how you might market or brand around your mission, vision, and values every day, but especially during the current situation. Lindsay, I'll come to you first. Yep. Any immediate
I think
thoughts?
Rob's on mute. He had something really epic to say,
Yeah,
but now he has to wait because I wasn't on mute. So I think in terms of this external piece, for me, there's a couple of things I want to lift up. Is obviously one of our core values is we always keep getting better, right? We always want to continue to innovate and be creative and think about what's next. And you shared some of those examples around these virtual happy hours and how we're trying to make them different. But we're also trying to be targeted, I would say, with our blogs, with our Ask Us Anything, and be responsive. So, taking kind of the lay of the land of what people are responding to or asking for or needing right now, and how can we partner to provide that. So it's helping us grow as professionals, but it's also, offering those services and skills to others. So I think this time more than ever, we're always getting better is also kind of on the forefront of my mind in terms of externally how we're working.
Awesome. And now for Rob's epic comment. ...
Every week I get caught with the mute on for one reason or another. It seems like I was just going to add. I think this is an opportunity for a lot of us to reflect on like what we're talking about and what Aaron said earlier, like dust this off, think about it, think about how you're acting it out in real time, in real life, and know that this is a time where if your business or your operation organization has had a struggle kind of hitting the high bar, we're entering a period where the customers, clients, others are really going to respect your actions now. Like the world's view is on how we as business and organizations behave through this. There's lots of folks watching us, wondering how we treat people, how employees are treated, how we're treating our communities. And I think we have a bit of a reset on our hands if we want it to be, and to make things better. It doesn't just have to be the way it was before this started. And I've been trying to think of silver linings through all of this. And I think that's one that we can take away, is that we have an opportunity to really think about it and change.
So let's move on to our sort of 5-step consideration plan. I know that Karen's going to lead this, and I'm sure we'll all chime in as well. But here are 5 steps you can think about how to apply some of what we've talked about here today to your own organizations.
All right. So having your mission, vision, and values, and having them displayed prominently, whether that's in your place of business when we all get back to those places of business, on your website, socially, digitally, in any way, shape, or form. You want to make sure that is out there for people to consume and see. Also, brainstorming ways that you can add value to each audience segment that you work with through your mission, vision, and values. Rob, did you have?
Certainly, like just think through, you have multiple audiences, you have your internal audience, and then you have external audiences. You also have vendor audiences. I mean, there's lots of people that you can think about, reach, touch, approach. And so you just want to be mindful of that as you think about how this message gets out to them.
And then next would be, an action plan. How are you going to bring that out to these different audiences? So actually putting something together in writing and sticking to that. Then number 4, they're communicating these actions and outcomes regularly with your audiences. That can be a little touchy because it's hard to sometimes want to toot your own horn, and like what we mentioned with the PPP plan and how we're doing this giving back with our client base, we don't necessarily want to run out and toot that horn super loud everywhere. But we're hopeful that the clients that we are working with and helping might be the mouthpiece for that and spreading that good word. So doing good, and helping others hopefully gets communicated through those that are benefiting from that. And then last, evaluate your action plan and course correct as needed. Everything, especially during this time right now, you may have the best laid plans and tomorrow everything completely changes, as we've seen with this crisis. So being nimble and prepared to make changes and communicate those as they come along. And like we said earlier, just being honest and transparent and forthright. And I think that's the best course of action, especially in a crisis time like this.
Yeah, and I think that, a couple of things that really stand out to me are this idea of like creatively promoting your mission, vision, and values. I think that I'm a big fan of simple is better, and to the extent that you can even encapsulate sometimes your core values in an icon, as you saw that we did, I think are really helpful just to like run down them. No one's going to remember word for word unless they've memorized any of these statements. And so what are quick, easy ways to sort of get them in front of yourself, in front of your team members, in front of your clients and customers on an ongoing basis, I think is important. So thinking about creativity around that and making additions or changes or corrections as you certainly need to. This idea around brainstorming, I think, is an important one. I think that oftentimes when we ask our teams to be creative around ways we can help or add value, all of the normal restrictions sort of begin to limit their creativity or their innovation. And so to the extent that you can really tee people up to be thinking creatively, to be thinking innovatively, to be thinking, as much as I hate this sort of phrase, outside of the box, I think the better. And so being really mindful of how can you eliminate or how can you reduce some of those barriers. There are obviously resource constrictions, but perhaps you could then begin to funnel some of those outlandish ideas, if you will, through that funnel resource at a later point in time. And maybe you can't do all of those things, but maybe you can do them in steps. Maybe you can't do that one big thing, but maybe you could do a part of that thing. I really, caution, encourage you to think about what are the restrictions that are normally placed, what sort of holds people back, and to the extent that you can eliminate some of those, to think creatively, I think is important. And then perhaps at a later point in time, kind of funnel that through a resource sieve. Lastly, I just think that this idea around communication is important. And as sort of Karen's indicated, you have to figure out what you're comfortable sharing and what you're not comfortable sharing. But we did include here sort of two ideas to be mindful of. The first is, what are the actions that you're taking, but also to follow it through and to maybe point out or to identify what are the outcomes, what are the benefits of what it is that you did, not necessarily to promote or again to toot your own horn, but to really sort of put a punctuation mark that the thing that you did, the impact that you had, was important. And even if you're only communicating that internally to your staff, I think it's another way to sort of live, breathe, and offer additional life around your brand. Rob, are there any other sort of thoughts that you have in that 5-step plan before we kind of move on and wrap up?
just quick that, the things that you have stated and that you believe in, you have to be able to act out. They can't be things that you make up to sound good or sound clever. It's more about the things that you can actually carry and be. And truthfully, if you find that place, you will find that your customers can react to that, your vendors can react to that, and your team can react to that.
I love that. I think that, as a young entrepreneur 10 years ago or so when EventGuard started, it was like, maybe I could pick our core values from a list like that. Isn't that the easiest way to just like make it happen? And when you're sort of one or two people, maybe that does make sense. But then over time, it's almost like the brand chooses you because if people are being authentic, like the things that they care about sort of bubble up to the surface. And that's certainly what we've experienced is that, we took the opportunity, I think, to just capture the things that have bubbled to the surface and sort of lock them in as values, and then make sure that everything we do sort of amplifies those things. But to be honest, they're not anything that really picked. I feel like they're things that picked us.
Right on.
Okay, so with that, I know that we're just about to the end of our time today. We are going to wrap up here. And so to begin our wrap up, I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay for any sort of concluding thoughts or anything else she wanted to share from the chat.
Oh, I think that folks are just sharing different ways that, they are, connecting and communicating Zoom meetings, phone calls, emails, and things like that. And so I would encourage folks as we're kind of doing this wrap up to think about how you're going to apply some of the things that you learned today. But I'll let you get into that first question and we'll chat about that.
Awesome. So with that, I'm going to turn it over as well to Rob and Karen to see if there are any sort of concluding maybe thoughts that you have about today before we officially wind down.
I just wanted to underscore that whole thing about, I think it was number 4 in the previous slide, about communicating the outcomes. That's one thing that actually I'm taking away today, that we don't do necessarily the best job at in the work that we do. We're constantly running from deadline to deadline to deadline, and we're always looking forward, but to stop for a minute and really reflect on, the outcome of what happened is really, really a valuable lesson. And I think that that's something that I'm taking out of this today, to do a better job with that.
Oh, and I mean, as always, I take out, EventGuard's always been, not to be crazy, but you guys always do such a great job with the communication side internally. I'm always impressed when I see the things that you guys are doing and how you communicate as a team. It's really impressive.
Awesome, thanit's. Well, we'll take it. Lindsay mentioned maybe and I will just say, like, this is it's the social media filter. Like, so there are also equal number of bad days, but I think we do try to get it right as often as we can.
Well, we use the bad days to improve and get better.
Absolutely. Lindsay mentioned sort of that last concluding question. I did sort of drop it in the chat box and just ask, what will you take with you today to maybe apply in your own organization? We'd love to see any of these sort of comments as we wrap up. We will remind you that our 5th and final episode, at least for this series, occurs next week, Wednesday, April 29th from 1 to 2 Eastern time. We'll be talking about strengthening customer relationships and kind of even with the lens of opening up our states, right? And so it's both strengthening current existing customer relationships, but I also think kind of an eye and a lens on what will it look like as we continue to reopen and reengage, not necessarily business as usual, but business more usual. I don't know. Certainly different. We want to thank you all for joining us today, certainly, and just want to remind you that all of the content resources will be available. I saw in the chat box that a couple of folks had to step away or maybe wanted slides or the recording or whatnot, and you can get all of that on our website. So do reach out to either Rob and the Image Shop or myself and Lindsay at EventGuard. We're happy to help in any way that we can. In the meantime, we hope that you will stay safe, stay healthy, and we hope to see you on a future program.